Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
Well, happy Friday, gentlemen. We have a good show planned. I have some really cool videos to review. We're talking about rowing. Aaron is fired up. He's already lectured me for about 5 minutes for the show, so he's ready for action. Luckily, Dougie's here to settle the score as usual. Thanks for being here, Dougie.
I've got a new angle on my camera, so maybe
there's some really bad feedback going on right now.
There's that background noise again, Freshie. Press mute real quick. I just want to see if it's still there.
Nope.
Yeah. I have background. Dougie, we're getting background noise from you.
Like pretty good.
Yeah.
Right now you hear it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No.
I don't hear it now.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
This came up. Sorry to bother everybody. This came up. I was listening to a recording from a few weeks ago, and there was really bad background noise in the recording. So, Doug, you may just have to listen quietly and nod your head and press mute and unmute, so we figure it out next time. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. This is a show Aaron and I do every Friday at 2 p.m. live, almost every Friday at 2 p.m. live. It's called Aaron and Zach's Naive and Entitled Rafting Show, where we're two naive and entitled guys. Luckily, we have Dougie, who is experienced and wise, to help us get through the show a little bit. And we kind of talk about a variety of topics that we want to talk about. And the best part for us is, of course, those of you who comment and get engaged. So, and put us on side conversations. You can become a member. Paul, thank you for becoming a member today. Really appreciate it. Help support the show. And on the topic of memberships, guys, I don't know if I told you this. I've been doing some member-only videos.
Oh.
So I'm gonna pause you, Doug. I hear that thing again. It's stuff that I don't want to necessarily make public and everybody can see. Like there's certain videos where like maybe there's some carnage. It's not like something you want to share with everybody, but I share with members. Or maybe it's something that I want to just give a light touch to, or some video that isn't for general consumption. I've been doing it for member only, and it's been kind of fun. So that's another side benefit of being a member. Anyways, thanks, Paul, for being a member.
So it sounds like Dougie and I need to become members so we can see the content.
Well, I don't want to have the things you have to pay to be in, and you guys are on the show, so I don't know. You might just miss out.
Can we get like a special like discounted membership or a like?
I don't control it at all. It's all through YouTube.
Really?
I don't have any editing to it. If you want to cancel your membership, I can't do it. Like if somebody's like, I'm done with these guys, they have to do it to YouTube. I don't control any of it. So yeah, welcome everybody to the show. Again, I have a lot to talk about, so I'm ready just to kind of get into it. And the first thing I want to share. Oh, and last thing, please subscribe. I'm looking for subscribers, so thank you for the members. And if everybody wants to subscribe, that would be super cool. But we're going to start today.
Zach, one other thing before we go into that.
Yeah.
For our listeners who listen we have the podcast version of it now, correct too? Like it's not designed to be a podcast, but listen, enjoy, but understand we're going to be talking about stuff. A lot of times we'll be pulling up stuff that we're looking at. And so you might miss out a little bit here or there, but we just do that to provide it just to give more people an opportunity to access it. Cause we've had some requests to be able to listen to it when people are driving or doing whatever they're doing. Yeah.
And that's a River Talk podcast. So it's a podcast we used to do, and you can just find on Stitcher and Apple iTunes and all the things. And you can just listen to the audio, but you are missing out on some stuff. So I'm going to start with this Gore Canyon video really quick, just to kind of review this. I had a bunch of cool videos to watch today. And then we're going to answer a question about Tear Aid. Somebody asked a question by email about Tear Aid I want to get to. And then, Boatsmith was this last weekend. Do you remember Boatsmith? Do you guys know what that is?
I think so.
Dougie's nodding his head. Remember how we used to go to the Smith every year, President's Day weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Well, now there's an official thing called Boatsmith where people do that officially. And so it's like an event with races. And here's the carnage. So we're looking at Gore Canyon right now. And I'll talk about Boatsmith in a second. Have you guys done Gore Canyon?
No, I haven't. Would love to do it. Never done it. Have you?
Yeah, this rapid is nasty. and it looks pretty bad from the video, but it's just a pile of rocks. And I think a lot of them there's a railroad that parallels it on River Right. So I think a lot of it's like unnaturally pushed in the river. So this whole section is just kind of nasty.
Have we looked at this video before on the show? Oh no, this is a different one.
No.
What are they? They're pulling people up. What's going on? They're pulling people.
I think they've got people off the boat, which is pretty smart.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think we talk a lot about, wraps or things. One of the first things we want to do is think about what happens after the wrap. Right. Well, they're thinking about it. Let's get some people off the rock now so that they don't have to swim the rapid when we're done. Right. Do you think that's?
Yeah, I think they don't have to swim the rapid. And I think it's just less management for the person on the boat, not having to manage those people and keep an eye on them. And you can focus on just trying to get that boat off.
Yep. Maybe somebody may not accidentally fall in. There's just less, you don't need 3 people out there unless 3 people are going to be pulling on it. Do the strong arm pull, Aaron, the strong arm pull.
The strong arm pull, we pull with your strong arms on the rope?
No rope, just your arms. The strong arm pull is just your arms, no ropes.
Okay. And then the rope pull is a strong arm pull with a rope.
Yeah, it's a rope pull with your strong arms, which is what they're doing now, right? They're just like, they do have a 3-to-1. Look at that. A little tiny 3-to-1. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it looks like it. But it looks like he's not. No, is it?
Well, I haven't watched this yet. This is super interesting. I want to go back. So the first thing I noticed right away, there's an anchor. Do you notice there's an anchor on that rock? It's like, did you see that? Hold on. It's like somebody, this is a common thing. Do you see it right there? People have put bolts in the rock for probably this exact occurrence. Like this probably happens a lot. Do you see those bolts? That's a great view right there. They're like anchored onto a bolt on the rock. That's kind of cool. Dougie, in terms of your leave no trace principles, do you feel like bolting rocks to help with rescues is a good idea?
I don't know if I'm decided on that.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to give an opinion. I mean, it seems like it'd be a little bit sharp, potentially, if you're a swimmer. Something else. I mean, a rock is already hard, but if you're
I'm going to say this. If the water is going over the top of that rock, I hope you're not.
You're not running it when the water's
You're
going
not running when the water's out. You've got bigger problems than those little metal things on the rock if the water's going over there, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see the advantages for sure.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, Dougie.
The fact that is it that bad?
It's pretty bad. It's worse than last time.
I'll go look for another headset.
Okay. So it's kind of cool they have bolts. It's like they know this is a common place to wrap, which I'm sure it is. They have the boat tied to that anchor just in case it comes off while they're messing around, right? It's nice to have it tied off because then it doesn't just float downstream. There's nobody down there to get it. Like if it came off on its own right now, it would go for a while. And then it looks like, see how there's a 3-to-1 right there?
Yeah. Doesn't it look like it does look like a 3-to-1, but it also looks like they're going off of the 2 anchors with it. Like, is it a 3-to-1 or is it the anchors? It's like, it looks like multiple things. Are they doing a regular 3-to-1 or are they like using the anchors? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not really, but I think it's a 3-to-1. I can see it better because I'm making it big. And if anybody wants to watch this video later, it's in all the videos are always in the show notes. They used a butterfly right there. So instead of having a prusik, that's a butterfly right there. And so it looks like the rope is going down to the anchor, probably to a pulley, back up to the pulley on the butterfly, and they're pulling back down. But then Homeboy is just straight arm pulling. So I'm thinking what's happening here is that they got a tight rope with a 3-to-1, and Homeboy pulling is kind of doing a vector pull in some ways. Yeah. Like there's like he's pulling plus there's a vector pull kind of happening at the same time. It's kind of cool. As a climber, bolts or hangers are not sharp. Yeah. I just wonder, like, should we start putting bolts around different rivers where we have wraps a lot? Like, we generally have wraps at Blossom Bar. How about having a bunch of bolts at Blossom Bar or different places? Like, is that good practices, Freshie?
Is that so? My mic's is that better?
Oh, it's way better. Yeah, great. Way better.
No, that's not a good idea.
Okay, so it's okay for climbers, but not for rafters.
Well, climbers don't like it either in general. There's definitely movements against bolting and climbing. Okay. But I think part of what makes it potentially better in this river might be because there is so much rock flowing in from the railroad system. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That might make it a little bit more
palatable.
But no, I don't think we should bolt things where there's lots of wraps.
George has an interesting comment here. Oh my! You can paint them to match the rock. Is it about the color, or is it about the fact that we're drilling into rocks?
Does it matter? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Like, well,
the question I asked, like when you
like people, I can see that people are like, yeah, I was listening the whole time.
Okay,
but
how's
why?
your sandwich?
No, I got to refill on my water.
I'm just. Oh, okay.
I was out of water.
How's your water?
Delicious.
Yeah, you need us to don't get too grumpy on us today. It matters because Aaron, should we be putting these bolts at Blossom Bar on the Rogue? Everywhere there's a wrap, should we start installing bolts?
Well, classic spots. In some ways, it's probably be safer. And I think like Blossom Bar, for example, I think that's a great example. Is like, man, think about when someone wraps there and like how long it takes, and would it decrease the amount of injuries and problems, and would it stop that backup there? I could see Blossom being a great place to do just because it's so busy there. I think places where there's a huge amount of traffic and it's a really common wrap spot and there's not good natural anchors. I mean, personally, I'd rather not have them there, but I think those arguments have enough validity to like turn it to that side.
You could pull wraps up. Remember, we watched that one wrap video. They pulled the Blossom wrap upstream, and the guy, if there were bolts there,
yeah.
I mean, if every wrap you're just like, man, I'm not a proponent of doing this. I'm just like brainstorming out loud and thinking, if we figured out the best angle for every common wrap place and just put bolts in, say, hey, just use those. Like, I don't know, it's good. George, saying it's bad practice. Okay.
I'm not gonna argue with George. I mean, like, I'd rather not see him there, but I think you got to take a step back and try to look at all the variables. And I think there's some really good reasons to do that. I think there's equally as good reasons to not do it. Think about people who are doing the road, for example, and they've never done it before. They get down, they don't know the river. They don't know what you do if it's wrapped there. But if they read it, so yeah, if you wrap here, look, there's a set of bolts upstream, blah, blah, blah. Be like, oh, cool. Hey, all right, that's good to know. Doug, you seem more hesitant. Your face is saying, no.
Yeah, I'm not ready to
you're saying not on my river.
Bolting things. Yeah, no, I would say no.
Do you go sport climbing ever?
I mean, I did. I don't these days. But no, Aaron, I hear what you're saying. But also, I think there's a movement against bolting sport routes too these days. I mean, we've gotten away from it for sure in the climbing community.
Well, they've all already been bolted.
Sure, but not bolting new stuff as much as they used to.
So the impression I'm getting from Georgia, I don't know what the answer on this. That's why I asked. From Georgia, I mean, you are saying, I couldn't tell if you were for him or against him, but now I see you're against him. Is that, yeah, we probably shouldn't do it. That's the impression I'm getting from George. Justin has an interesting thing. Not if it's a wild and scenic designation. There's nothing in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act that would keep you from bolting. There's nothing, for rivers and wild and scenic, there's nothing in the act that says you can't bolt. There might be something in a management plan for a specific river, but I doubt it. So that would be more of an ethical thing. Like, hey, if it's wild and scenic, we ethically shouldn't. But there's nothing in the bill that would preclude you from doing it that I know of.
At the portage on the lower section of the middle, white, there's that ladder section that's bolted to the wall and some ropes bolted in too.
There's a lot of bolts there.
I've used that. It's been helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's bolts on Flat Rock But for the portage at Flat Rock, at certain flows, you got to line the boats. There's bolts there, and there's bolts for Lumsden Falls, and it definitely makes it a lot safer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
On the white salmon, I think the safety, and I would say I like having them there because, I mean, even just for like the bolts that like after the portage, so you can tie your boats into. Remember that rapid Aaron that we portaged and had the boat surf?
Oh, yeah.
One of your favorite places to watch
totally.
a boat surf. There's a lot of bolts there to help people get down the shore safely, but also when you're done to actually tie the boat up so you can just, tie it up to something. There's no rocks or things to tie it up to. So it's for safety there. It's kind of crucial. I mean, I'm really glad they're there personally, but Steve is saying, please don't do bolts.
And I think I agree with that, Jen. I think we all agree with that. In general, my concern is that people are going to start bolting everything everywhere, and it's like, we don't need bolts all over the place. And like you just need one person to think it's there and put it there, and everyone else to be annoyed. So I'd say, Zach, the one thing though is like, if it's in a wilderness area, can you install the bolts?
Let's get to that in a second. I just want to get some comments because that's coming up. Good vibes. What's up, Willie Bum Bum? Leave no trace. I mean, that's why I brought in our Leave No Trace expert, Dougie. I mean, Dougie, you represent all of Leave No Trace at this point. He's the most Leave No Tracey person I know.
Aaron, have you taken a master's Leave No Trace?
No.
Oh, I can tell you. I can tell you for a fact, Aaron doesn't even know the 7 principles. So I can tell you for a fact right now. That came up.
Well, by the way, Zach, I didn't think that wasn't a good question.
I asked a question about Leave No Trace in a guide quiz, and he did not get it correct, and he doesn't like the question.
I didn't even answer that question, did I?
You got it wrong, so you either didn't answer it or you.
I didn't really spend time on it.
Wrong. Okay.
I feel like that's a U.S. Leave No Trace. Isn't that a U.S. centered organization?
Yeah, but it's good.
Whatever. Yeah, but they're not exactly the same.
There's definitely there's international branches of Leave No Trace. There's one in Mexico. I know that.
Okay. I just think it's not an international standard.
All right. I think
it's not like three whistle blasts, like this for something of this nature for okay.
It sure would be nice if Leave No Trace was an international standard, though. It would be nice. I mean, it's not specific to the U.S.
Just don't be pretty much it's like, don't be a slob. Don't leave any marks that you were there. Don't leave a trace. It's not harder than that.
It is harder than that. It is.
No.
Plan ahead and prepare. That's a Leave No Trace principle. It has nothing to do with what you just said.
How does plan ahead and prepare different? What does that mean in terms of
That's one of the 7 Leave No Trace principles, Aaron.
Plan ahead and prepare.
It means you're less likely to need a rescue,
which is more impact on the area.
Show up in a situation where you don't have the right poop disposal system.
Yeah, I mean, be self-reliant. That's kind of a.
Okay, as a Boy Scout, this is super easy, but
be prepared.
For the general public, I feel like we should be espousing the Leave No Trace principles around the world, and having guided other parts of the world, you probably have seen where people they litter, and people just litter other places.
Oh man, people litter here all the time too.
Not like the rest of the world. All right, I don't want to get into it.
I'm going to say this: you haven't, work flood control in Alameda, and then talk to me about it. It's amazing how much trash is down in those corridors.
There's trash, but go to I know I don't want to get into it. This is about.
I'm going to say this: the one difference, Zach, I think is those international places that you're talking about, and you're throwing these people from other countries under the bus like this, which I think is
how dare you?
Not that cool. But I think the big difference is in a lot of those rivers and those places we go in other places. There's people living full time upstream and in those canyons versus in the U.S. there's no one living up there really. So it's not this. You're not going to have the same impacts. And if we had people living upstream of our canyons, we'd have the same problems. We'd have the same trash. Because
not from what I've seen. I mean, I've seen really bad problems.
I mean,
other
Zach,
places.
I've
seen things that will never happen.
I used to drive these creek beds.
Aaron, are you trying to make the case that teaching Leave No Trace is a bad thing?
No, I'm trying to say that it's not needed any more so in other countries than here.
It's not a.
I'm saying you're definitely a U.S. elitist here, Zach.
So it's not needed in other countries more than here. Okay, well.
Yeah.
It's more. I think here people are more aware of like leaving no trace, and so it's not as much of a problem. Other parts of the world, it wouldn't hurt them to learn about leave no trace principles, and it's not a U.S. standard. I'm sure it's an international organization. This is just frustrating. Let's get to Jim's comment. Let's go back to wilderness. I would agree with you 100%, Jim. 100%. I would say I don't know for a fact if bolts are precluded in wilderness. I'm guessing they are. I can't. There's nothing in the app that says you can't.
How would you install them? That would be my question.
Oh, because you need a power tool. You can hand tool install them.
Oh, God.
You know, remember that thing that Sylvester Stallone had in that cliffhanger movie with that gun that just shot him in?
Yeah.
That's probably allowed in wilderness.
Well, because it's a gun.
You can have, depending on the specific wilderness management plan, you can have hand drills. So you can install them. But I would agree, Jim. I don't think I'd want to see them in those places. I'm okay seeing it in the lower white salmon. It's like, it's not protected in any way. It's not public lands. It provides a massive safety benefit, not just a little, massive safety benefit. Here on Gore Canyon, I think it's debatable. What do you guys think?
I think you tell me Gore Canyon isn't been just totally changed by human impact on the canyon.
I mean, that's Jim's comment here, basically.
Yeah, I agree with it too. It's just like, it's not a very natural setting to begin with.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
Death Tango Whitewater invented the GRS, the garbage retention system, which you could purchase from him.
What is the garbage retention system?
Do we really want to sidetrack into this?
Yes, right now? Yeah, I am dying to see the.
Hey, why don't you?
I'll look it up.
I'll finish this video up. You do it.
Or Death Tango Whitewater. Can you send us a link? Just send us.
Aaron, you can do. Don't send it to me. Send it to Aaron. I don't want to.
No, just post it on here. Post it on the.
Oh, I don't think you can.
Maybe that's true, huh? What is it called? The garbage what?
Garbage retention system. They did a beautiful job here. Oh, the guide even jumped on the boat. I just missed that. Sorry. Like, they're pulling it off. The guy knows to get on that boat. He does. This is just, I don't know. I'm really impressed. This is really well done. This is basically a quick system. I think they were super responsible the way they did it. They kept all the life jackets and helmets on. This is just an effective wrap removal. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's good. That's a commercial trip, you think, or a private?
I think it's a private.
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact, but I don't think the commercial trips run Gore Fall. I think they portage. Maybe they run it. I don't know. It's a big. This is the run out right here. I mean, not only is it really nasty up there, this swim is epic. I don't know how you manage customers taking this swim, and it's just kind of sharp rock and pretty nasty. Look at that swim, Freshie. Would you want? Yeah, you wouldn't want. I think they portage people around it, and it kind of below here. It just kind of keeps going. There's some like pretty nasty holes below here. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for that video.
Here you go, Zach. I just sent you a link.
Why don't you just bring it up because my email's closed because it disrupts.
No. I sent it in within our system.
Oh, the private chat. Got it.
Private chat. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me open that up.
I'm super pumped to see this.
Okay, share screen. Now I have to do all these buttons. Why can't you just do them? Why didn't you just share screen, Aaron? This is a common problem I have. I have too many beer cans at the bottom of my rack. This happens to me all the time. Don't get me started. But luckily, this product is here to help keep you from having beer cans all over the bottom of your raft.
Ah! That's pretty cool. That is nice. So you can get totally hammered and still wrap and be responsible.
Oh, it's a dry bag bottom.
Yeah, that's clever. And then the opening on the other side. That's actually a clever little design there.
What's he going to do here? That's not going to work. Nope. I just throw that in the river. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Dougie, won't that just degrade over time? Can't you throw paper in the river?
No.
But you can throw glass bottles in the river too, right? They'll just turn to sand.
No.
What do you mean, Doug? No, they totally will. If you break them, if you throw them hard against a rock and break them and shatter them.
No, you're right. They will, but no, you can't do that.
Why can't you? Is there a law against it, or is it just a leave no trace principle?
Throwing glass bottles in the river?
Yeah.
No, against the wall, so they explode, and then they're part of the little pieces.
I wouldn't throw a full bottle. I definitely would throw it against a rock so it explode at first. I think I just throwing a full bottle in is irresponsible. But if you threw it against a rock and it got in small pieces, that seems reasonable.
I don't think we want glass in the river.
That'd be a little scary. I agree. You probably end up in an eddy, and then someone gets out and cuts their feet. Yeah, I don't think it's such a good idea.
I have on sailing trips dropped glass in the ocean.
I've heard about people on sailing
purpose
trips also taking like tin cans and putting some rocks in them, just let them sink to the bottom because they're gonna.
And they have a wax coating, so we'll put them on the stove to burn that off, the coating off, so it'll rust away really quickly.
You have purposely thrown litter in the ocean.
Yes.
How does that fit with the leave no trace principles, Freshie? What's it in? Is it like don't leave trash except when you're in the ocean?
Here's one response is that where I did this in Mexico, they don't have a great waste system. Everything ends up in an arroyo where they set it on fire and leave it there for a long time. So potentially the ocean is better for managing waste than that.
So if your best guess is what you're doing, if littering is the best possible thing, then it's okay.
I mean, we're all trying to use our judgment all the time.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. You want a limb there, George? I don't know that power tools are illegal in wilderness. To be honest with you,
I think it depends where, Zach. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think the management plan sometimes, because the Wilderness Act precludes mechanical transport. It doesn't talk anything about power tools. It talks about mechanical transport. It talks about machines, or like I forget the word.
But the trail crews in the Selway Bitterroot are not allowed to use chainsaws.
Chainsaws are definitely illegal. Power tools, like battery operated things, there is some leeway that each.
So battery operated chainsaw would be okay.
So the way it's been defined, because battery powered things are new since the Wilderness Act.
Yeah.
But the wilderness areas have defined the size of a battery, right? So like, is a mechanical watch, is that legal? Yeah, obviously it is. Is a pump powered shower illegal? Probably should be in the spirit of the act. And
probably should be or shouldn't be?
Should be. No. If it's like, I think that like a battery powered shower with a battery powered pump should be illegal. Personally, that's my ethic.
It should be illegal. Okay.
Should not be legal. Yeah.
Okay.
A battery powered shower should not be legal. A shower. Did I say that right? But I think a power tool is like an interesting gray area. My instinct says in the spirit of the act that they should be illegal. But I don't think that's my opinion, but I think other people have different opinions, and it's interpreted differently based on individual management plans.
What about electric toothbrushes?
I don't bring mine, but I'm not going to tell.
No, I don't. I don't bring mine either on there, and I think it definitely takes away because you can hear it. It impacts the people around you. Versus the watch battery, it doesn't make noise. It's not taking away from the experience.
Yeah. I mean, again, Steve comments on the anchor and gore. I do that a lot. I pull upstream, not straight upstream. I usually have 45, but I find that, like, personally, that peeling a boat off is super effective for getting wraps. So I like that angle, at least in my experience. I know you're pulling against the water, but if you can just peel a little bit back, then the water starts coming out and being more one-sided. I find wraps come off way easier. It might be in the notes for the video. I don't know. Deflated thwart with a leg under it. I didn't see that, but I probably wouldn't put my leg under a deflated thwart. Yeah, that's interesting, Peter.
Yeah, I think the mesh bag for cans has a couple problems. First of all, it kind of makes a mess because it gets water. It gets like your whole boat's gonna start smelling like beer or soda or whatever you have in them because they'll like drain out some more. Oh, that's interesting.
Yep, that's a good point. And it can handle glass. So if you're drinking glass beer cans,
yeah, come on, really, it handles glass. Like if Zach were to like get thrown out of his seat and ran into it, that's not gonna cause problems.
Less than if I just fell on the glass.
or the glass sitting on the bottom of the raft.
Yeah. It's George, we were kidding. I think what's hard about our sense of humor, when we're just us together, we can say our stupid things and tease Dougie. Sometimes we forget the real world. People don't have a sense of humor. So George, thanks for pointing out.
Which one are you kidding about?
About throwing glass in the river.
Okay.
I'm not going to throw glass against I think throwing glass against a rock to have it explode in small pieces and go in the river is hopefully, obviously, something we would never consider doing, right? Or so we're trying to be funny, and it's maybe you might do it, Aaron, but I think
I know places where people have done it. It didn't. Sound
I know
outrageous.
Places for sure. The people I know who have done it have thrown full bottles in though, which actually seems safer to me.
Full bottles.
Yeah, because then there's not glass.
But it's going to break at some point.
Yeah, but I don't. They throw it in the deep, like they throw it somewhere deep too. Like I know I would never do this. It's not a thing I'm going to do. Just so you guys know, we were kidding. But I know of people who do that. They throw bottles into deep parts of the river and they just sink somewhere nobody would ever get to.
Yeah, but the river's going to come up from the
crash. Why do they do
it? But it's full. They're wasting beer.
No, empty.
Oh, but fill it.
Yeah,
so
it stinks or something, whatever. I don't know.
Remember that trip on the Tuolumne where we lost like 20 bottles of wine in Rock Garden?
It was 9, but yeah, it wasn't 20.
It was more than 9, wasn't it?
I don't think it was 20.
It was a lot of bottles.
We all lost avocados that same time. That same incident. The avocados were brutal too.
No, you weren't on that trip. This is a different trip. You weren't on this trip. This is when I was running stuff, and then we went back the next day and found like all but one of the bottles. It's kind of amazing. They were sitting on the bottom of the river. It was kind of crazy. Like you just go to, the water dropped down the top, and you just poking around. Oh, there's another bottle. Oh, there's another bottle. Oh, there's another bottle. We're like, we got almost all of them back. It was hard to believe that more of them didn't break. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
So, Zach, people that you've seen or heard about dropping bottles in deep sections of the river, just to decrease how much waste they have to carry out of the river. Is that the?
I think also there's a cool factor that's just like. I think that's probably what it really is.
Like when you're driving down the road, you just throw some trash out your window.
Yeah.
Just to be cool. But then you could pull over at the next stop and pick up like 5 pieces of trash and be net positive, but people would still be grilled.
It would be like, for example, if you took a shotgun on a river trip and shot flaming rolls of toilet paper just to be cool. Just for example, it's kind of like that. Like, let me just throw bottles in the river. It's the flaming rolls of toilet paper are not really littering that much. It doesn't really affect anything, right? I just came up with something on the top of my head. But if you were following Leave No Trace principles, you would probably pick that up.
This is a horrible conversation today.
Okay,
let's look at some comments and move forward from this. We are spiraling into places.
Most wilderness. Yeah, I think that's true. I think most wilderness don't allow it. The Makita raft inflator is certainly an interesting one because, let's say you had to fly a sweep boat into the Middle Fork of the Salmon last summer. Are you going to pump it up by hand, or man, that Makita raft inflator would save you a lot of pumps? What do you think the right thing is? Is the Makita raft inflator violating the spirit of the Wilderness Act?
I'll say Grand Canyon. Some of the commercial outfitters down there, they'll somehow use a generator off of their motor, and then they'll use like a red blower to top off their boats in the morning. And you'll be camped across them, and you'll hear.
But it's not wilderness.
I know it's not wilderness, but it's still like.
So you're saying
it's not in the spirit of the place, first of all, and it's really annoying, obnoxious.
Yeah. So what if you had a Makita raft inflator to blow the sweep up, and then you just muzzled it by covering it in some jackets and did it when nobody was like around? Is that in the spirit of the place, or by just bringing the raft inflator to pump up the sweep? Would that be okay? This is the debate we had last summer. We actually had this debate.
Well, I think the problem is it's a slippery slope. Because you do that, someone's like, oh, well, NWR brings a Makita, so we'll bring our Makita.
Mm-hmm.
And
the next thing everybody's like, there's 2 of them in each hand. It's like all day long. It's like, I think, Rick, I have to look at the act again. I think it's actually no mechanized transport in the act. It doesn't say equipment. Aaron, if you want to look it up, I gotta keep going through stuff.
I'll pull up the Wilderness Act.
Bicycles not make noise. I mean, I think my bicycles are mechanized transport, and so, Wheelbarrows are mechanized transport. Bicycles are mechanized transport. So there's mechanized transport and there's mechanized equipment. And it doesn't say mechanized equipment, but it does talk about, there's something else in there that talks about, I can't remember what it is. There's a part I'm missing.
Okay, here we go. The first part says, there shall be no temporary road, no use of motor vehicles, motorized equipment.
It does say motorized equipment.
Yeah. No landing of aircraft, no other form of mechanical
go back,
transport.
reread it.
All right.
I'm gonna start because I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. There shall be no temporary road, no use of motor vehicles, motorized equipment, or motor boats. No landing of aircraft, no other form of mechanical transport. So they do talk about mechanical transport as well, and no structure or installation within any such area. So it talks about the mechanical transport, but it also talks about motorized equipment.
I think the interpretation of that motorized equipment part, and I could be wrong, I'm not a lawyer. I kind of know a few things about this, is actually intended as like motorized equipment, like backhoes and stuff and bulldozers. I don't think it's like I don't think they had like power hand tools in mind when they wrote the act.
Probably mining related, huh?
Yeah, like you can't, like, because it's not road section. Like, you can't have roads to have. They wanted people to, like, the idea was like you park your car at the entrance, you put on your hiking boots, and you went into wilderness without without a motorcycle, a moped, or roads. And so I don't think that they really thought about Makita hand drills.
Well, I'm going to say, once again, I'm going to say the crews that do trail work in the subway can't use any of that stuff.
We can't use chainsaws for sure. That's been
they can't use.
They can't use hand power tools either.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a gray area. I would say personally, in the spirit of the act and the idea of what the act talks about in terms of a wilderness ethic, we shouldn't do those things. But I don't think it's technically illegal. Yeah, that's a pretty bad. How dare anybody do that? I wouldn't do that ever. Yeah, I mean, Air Model Citizens, Dougie. We already know Dougie throws glass in the ocean, so sorry about that.
And tin cans.
And tin cans.
What else do you drop out there? Do you drop your plastic bags out there too when no one's looking?
But potentially compost, like compost waste.
And what do you burn in your fires?
No fires.
I thought you said you burned all this stuff. I thought you said you burned all this stuff.
How do you have a fire in a sailboat?
No, like if you take the trash to the city dump, it's in an arroyo where they burn it.
I thought you were talking about the cans, that you burn the cans first before you put them in the water.
Yeah. No, we just put them on the stove just to melt off the layer of wax so that when you throw them in the ocean, they'll rust really quickly.
That's thoughtful. Yeah. This is a massive.
From shore.
I agree.
At least a few miles from shore.
This is where the debate comes up. And I mean, there's a lot of mountain bikers who thinks mountain bikes should be allowed in the wilderness. So there's, the Wilderness Act wasn't written with mountain bikes in mind either. So this is a massive debate.
And people who drive snowmobiles think snowmobiles should be allowed in the wilderness as well.
Yep. And it's the reason we can't get wilderness anymore. We can't protect more places because so many people that want to use these places don't want them taken away from their current uses. So it makes it harder. Maybe if we allow hand tools in the wildernesses, maybe we could get more protected. Not that I'm advocating for it necessarily, but it's the debate. River God, retaliating for your lack of respect.
Probably right. There was definitely a lack of respect probably going on there.
So what happened in the case I was in was a boat wrapped at on the rock garden on Tuolumne, and somebody didn't properly tie down their box lid. It was full of wine and avocados. So that's what happened in my example. We did get same thing. We went back when it was low water and we found a bunch of it. We didn't find no avocados, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's Aaron's comment, is that it's a slippery slope. Once you allow something, it kind of moves it up. It's a slippery slope. And I think the way it's handled now is really smart. Every wilderness has some discretion here based on how it's managed. on some of this gray area.
Yeah, and Zach, I think the motorized equipment it's different. It's specifically different than mechanical transport, because they didn't say mechanical equipment, because then that would eliminate like the hand powered
it would eliminate
trails.
oars. That would eliminate oars, because oars are use mechanical advantage. So, I mean, the interpretation of this could be very strict depending on how you interpret the words.
Yeah. Well, mechanical transport, then you can't use oars either. You're right.
A Z-drag as well.
That's where it gets a little tricky. I mean, where's the line, right? It is a pump. Like, there's a pump, a mechanized thing. They don't want the trail builders to suffer, but the one thing about trails in the wilderness, this is a tough one, because we want more trails in wilderness. All the trails are overgrown. It's really hard to maintain them. And I've done trail maintenance in the wilderness before. You go so slow, just snails, all hand tools, like stuff that you could crush with a chainsaw real quick. I mean, you're 100-degree heat in the sun, just going back and forth with a crosscut. So I don't think they want that, but I think what that does is it sets a tone for wilderness values. If they just let trail builders just go chainsaw everything, I think I think that sets a tone for how we treasure wilderness. And ideally, there's groups like the Siskiyou Mountain Club that send, interns out, college students out for 3 weeks at a time, and just do the hard work in the backcountry and respect wilderness. I think that's sort of a long rant, but
yeah, I mean, Zach, I think that's like, once again, I'll go back to the Silix system I'm watching, but the Montana Conservation Corps, same thing. They're out there for months time, but there's still tons of trails that you can't use. They're not maintained. Like the old Centennial Trail in Idaho from north to south, they had to change it because sections of it weren't being maintained.
Yeah, and there's like thousands and thousands of miles of trails across the country that we just are letting go to waste. So I mean, these are hard debates, and I can see both sides, because we want trails, but we also want to maintain wilderness values, and finding that line, wherever we land. And hopefully there's smarter people than us figuring this out. It's the motor. And yeah, it is. And I think to this comment, what some wilderness areas have done is they said, you can't have a battery bigger than this. You can have a motor, because there's motors in tiny things like watches and things. It just can't be like, it can only be so many amp hours or something. So they've limited battery size. I wonder what this is a response to, Ryan. It can give you a mechanical advantage over home tools. I don't think Park Service Wilderness allows chainsaws. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Oh, here we go. We got some regulations. I know living power except a small battery. Yeah, Jim, thanks for sharing this. I mean, I think that's where is a hand drill a small battery powered hand carry. Yeah. But I have seen this is Forest Service specific, but I have seen different wilderness areas define the small battery is the key. Like what is small? Hands on a shovel trying to fix. Yeah. It's brutal. It's brutal. What's up, Timmy? I mean, that's a good point. I would say we do need more trails in wilderness, because if people don't use wilderness, it's hard to defend it. I think a lot of people would say, why are we setting these places aside if nobody ever has the opportunity to use them? And so getting more wilderness requires us to show some economic and health value to people. I think it's harder and harder to set places aside just to set places aside. So I would say that I don't say we need more trails. We just need to maintain the trails we have. We're losing so many trails. I wouldn't say add more, but like the ones we have are going away because they can't be maintained.
And I think that puts a bigger impact on the ones that are maintained, which is like good and bad.
And Tim, I think I don't know if this is across the board. This is a debate we had earlier. Maybe just joining in. I think it depends on the wilderness. I've seen it enforced differently, different places. Man, we get a lot of comments. We haven't got anywhere today. Rowing progression. Yeah, we got to get to this.
That's a good point.
We may not get to it today, Willie Bum Bum. Let's move on. You guys ready to move on? Okay, we'll do one more. Yeah, I mean, this is Dougie, what leave no trace principle that Aaron doesn't know is this?
Camp and travel on durable surfaces. Is that the one you're thinking of?
That's the one. That's the one. All right. I have a you don't like leave no trace, do you?
No, I don't. I think
you probably do, Aaron. You just there's some.
Oh, I like to practice it. I just don't like the night leave no trace. Like, oh, I'm a master's in leave no trace. Okay, yeah.
A master educator, not a master's.
Oh, master educator.
It doesn't hurt, Aaron. It's only positive to have people educated on how to respect.
I agree.
This isn't a bad thing.
I agree. I agree with the premise. I don't know. I just find some of the people.
You're being elitist right now. I can tell you that.
No, it's actually the opposite. 100%. Here's the problem. I feel like I've had a lot of my.
Only an elitist person would say it's the opposite. I'm the opposite of elitist. That's an elitist statement.
Sounds like you're being elitist.
I am. That's the point of the show.
Okay, I will say I've had a lot of students on like the college courses I teach who've gone through that, and like
Aaron, we're not going to badmouth leave no trace. We're done. Let's move on.
No, I'm not gonna say. How do I say this?
No, whatever you're saying is not positive. I already know what's coming out of your mouth.
No,
I know you well enough.
I think there's. How do I say it? I think there's a. Like they feel like because they've taken it, that means they're good at it.
Okay, great. Can we move on? Dougie is a master educator, and he's throwing stuff in the ocean. So
exactly my point.
Which I would argue is potentially good practice. I mean, it's all judgment based. Yeah. You're making decisions based on those, based on those principles. You're making a judgment about what's the best way to make the minimal impact. Well, and in that situation, leaving it in a Royal. A glass bottle in a Royal.
And Doug, I'm not arguing that. I just more think that like you see this a lot with people who are like, oh, I give my $20 a year for the Sierra Club. I care about the environment, but then I drive this huge old truck, drive it by myself out to Idaho.
Don't talk about me that way because I don't donate to the Sierra Club.
But I think this brings up a good point. Like all the stuff we're talking about is judgment based. Like, and you gain that judgment through learning, taking classes, learning, having your own experiences. I think what happens when you do one thing versus another. So, just like everything else, you can take the class and that gets you one step, but really there's a lot more to it than that.
And I think that's my struggle with it sometimes. I feel like a lot of those people have second year guide syndrome where they think they know it all. And it's like, dude, this is complicated. It's not simple. And like everything in life as you get older, you realize it's like, it's not that simple always. Like what you're doing about dropping your glass in the middle of the ocean and stuff like that. Yeah, it does make sense, bigger picture, to do it that way, for sure. So, yeah, and I've had people like get on me about certain things. I was like, dude, this doesn't matter what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. Like,
I think the difference, though, Aaron, I honestly think you're being elitist, straight up. So I think the thing is, you have so much experience and knowledge and training. You can make these decisions. And Dougie, you can too. You can be like, all right, we'll throw my glass and kill some starfish. You totally can do that, right? I think the average new person to backcountry travel and to the outdoors and like the average young person doesn't have that judgment making ability. So we have to give them a framework. This is the framework. And in 10 years, you can start throwing trash in the ocean. But right now, we need you to like follow the framework. And I think the framework is really good. What do you think about that, Aaron? Hey, what does sanctimonious mean?
I don't know. I mean, I should know what it means, but I'm not sure I know.
I think Aaron paused. I just blew Aaron's mind, so he paused.
Look it up.
And we're going to get to this topic in a second. Not all wilderness areas, but I mean, I would, like the Kalmiopsis, you're not going to get anywhere without a trail. Like there's some places, but there's some wilderness areas where you're not going to get anywhere without a trail. It's just so overgrown. So I think there's examples of both. Okay.
Definitely you have a lower impact. Well,
using a trail.
It depends on how many people. Yeah, no, definitely. Using a trailer, you have a much lower impact. But if you're one person, you're not going to make. It depends on the environment, I guess. It depends on the surface.
Yeah, yeah. But I know there's like somewhere like the Frank Church, you can probably walk anywhere you want to in Idaho, but try the Kamloops or I'm blanking on wilderness areas right now. But there's some where you're just not going to get anywhere without a trail. Like Yosemite, there's so many places where you just can't. You can't just cross country travel because it's so dense or so much. There's a lot of routes that dead end, like where you might try to go somewhere and you'll dead end. All right, let's move on to this topic. Sorry, go ahead, Dougie.
One last thing. I do love that concept of traveling off trail, though. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do. Is just to have a map and use that to navigate where there's not necessarily a trail.
But would you agree it depends on the specific landscape?
Yeah. There's definitely
some places it's appropriate, some places not. Some places it's possible, some places it's not.
Yeah.
All wilderness areas are not the same. There's a vast diversity in types of the backcountry. All right, let's get this question. And I get a lot of emails from people that I just honestly would love to write a long answer back to, but I don't have time to, but it's worth bringing up on the show sometimes. And we do a Tuesday live show sometimes to cover these. And so this is one that came in today. And I'm going to be on the river for the next 5 weeks. So there's no more Tuesday live shows for a while. So I thought I'd get to this one. And this has to do with tear aid. And I'm going to say first, I would listen to the manufacturers. No matter what I say here in a minute, don't forget that I am naive and entitled. And so I'm going to give you my thoughts and advice, but the manufacturers, I'm going to follow them always first. So with that said, what we did was test. There's YouTube videos about this of type A and type B. And we read the instructions for type A and type B. And it turns out that type A instantly adheres. Type B takes 24 hours to cure. And so if you want something that instantly adheres, I would do the type A. If in some non-vinyl surfaces, I think it's type B is for non-vinyl, you have 24 hours, type B may work great. But according to the directions for type B, it does not instantly adhere. And according to I did some like non-scientific experiments, type A on urethane works better immediately, and it works better after 24 hours of curing. So I'm going to say, in my opinion now, is for boating, type B is inferior to type A. They both work. I just think type A is, from my experience, better for every material out there. And I don't use PVC boats, so I'm not going to even worry about their applicability to type B. Sotar did a video about type A versus type B, and they said that they thought type B was better because when they get it from the shop, type B is harder to get off. Which I will tell you, if you put type B on and let it cure 24 hours, it leaves a nasty residue and it is very, very, very stuck. And so I think I would agree that type B is harder to get off. It does. I don't think they've tested which one holds air better. So I think that, now again, Sotar's a manufacturer. I'm sure they're correct. But in my experience, that video they did is incorrect. And type A works better immediately and within 24 hours. So that's a long explanation. Anything to add, Freshie?
Well, you said, you're more the expert on this than I am, but you said...
The manufacturers are the experts. But I definitely did some experiments.
You said Sotar got them back, and they said type B was harder to get off.
When they get boats back and people put type B tear rate off on it, they have a harder time getting that off.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was their logic why they thought type B was better.
I mean, usually things that take longer to seal, like epoxies and stuff, are stronger. So that would make sense.
That was my assumption. We did it. I put type A and type B on similar size holes on a thing. I let it wait 24 hours. I pumped it up, and the type B blew first.
Oh, really?
It's one piece of data. I could be totally wrong. I think I would call. I only own one airboat, and I don't know the answer to this. I would always call the manufacturer on these questions. Again, I'm going to give you an opinion that is naive and entitled, and I I'm sorry, I don't know all about all the different rafts. And the air floors are super unique. I think the repair kit actually has instructions and the material in it, if I remember right.
It came with Terrate, I believe, too. Yeah.
Yeah, the air. I mean, with the air boats, Terrate is used to, and I think they give you Type A. It's for the inner bladder, and you sew up the outer bladder. Mm-hmm. But the floor is different. The floor has a different fabric. I think Terrate works fine. I just can't remember right now. I don't use airboats enough. Oh, cool. Thanks, Rick. Yeah. Yep. I think that's a good point. Well, Freshie, I think we lost Aaron, but
do you have to invite him back in?
No, he knows how to get back in.
Okay.
But I want to share some videos with you while we wait for. I have a video Aaron really is gonna like. Share screen. But in the meanwhile, we're gonna start with Boatsmith, and we talked about this earlier a few minutes ago. The Smith, Dougie, is one of Dougie and I's favorite rivers to paddle. Welcome back, Aaron. And like I was saying earlier, boat. Hold on, let's pause for a second. This is I see Justin. We were getting at for racing purposes. So what Justin's asking, this is a good question. Dougie, Dougie and I raced an airboat a couple of years ago, and I think we won. I think they honestly I think we won. We crushed it, Freshie.
We did. I won. The other team was pretty fast.
Dougie.
It was a 10-minute race, and we lost by a minute, which we couldn't believe because we felt.
There's no way we lost by a minute. They
were fast, so they probably beat us, but maybe not a minute.
I don't know, man. We were fast. Anyway, we took an airboat, and it has and water gets in the holes. So airboats are slow when the holes are open. When you're racing, it slows you down because you're taking water. You're like the floor is heavier. So when I've raced airboats before, I've put Terrate over those holes. And I don't think it matters which one to use, honestly. I would use Type A for two reasons. One, it doesn't leave as much of a residue when it comes off. And two, it immediately works. You don't have to wait 24 hours. And that's what we should have done, Freshie, is taped up those holes.
Okay. Next time.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we'll share opinions, but I want to be really clear. We are naive and entitled, and our opinions are naive and entitled. So I would always recommend going to the manufacturer with their questions. Okay, back to the Smith. So, Aaron, the live show started a year ago, because we had this video from Boatsmith with some carnage, and we reviewed remember it was the guy who fell out and held onto his boat, and I was like, dude, you gotta let go of your boat so you can put your feet up. And so I think Boatsmith is the reason we started this show. And it's a year later, and there's some great video from Boatsmith on the internet. Boatsmith basically blew up the internet. But I thought these were some cool videos of somebody capboating the gorges at kind of low water. Have you guys done the gorges this low? Do you remember doing the gorge? Aaron, you're on mute.
I know. We did. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, definitely done the gorges this low.
It's pretty fun, but the rapids are very technical. And this capboating is super interesting. Before we get into the exciting parts, I just want to share two things. This is an Idaho boater. I can tell by the thing on his Idaho boating. I think those taglines in the front are like North Fork Payette long. And I would say a little long for technical water. You guys have any thoughts about that?
Nope.
No. Wow.
That's good.
Why do you think they're too long, Zach?
Because I think you could get wrapped up in those. I just think you want them as short as you can, but also provide the benefit of like swimming back to your boat and grabbing a tagline. I see the North Lake Payette wanting them super long, but yeah. But this is some tough capboating. I have to say, like I'm not sure if I would personally want to capboat this section at this level. And Timmy, if you're still watching, Timmy and I, we did this 4 times in a day once together in kayaks. It's super fun at this level. I don't know if you remember that day, Timmy. It was a blast. So you can see down there, there's a guy stuck on a rock, and this guy's doing a good job of editing out and just stopping while this other guy has time to get it off. I'll put this coming up really quick. I don't think it gives you a higher top speed. There's actually suction between the floor and the water that I think slows you down. And
you have more momentum. You'll have more momentum.
Yeah, Justin's right. Like all the people I know that race airs have sealed floors.
Do you see the airboats winning races that often?
I mean, the Oregon rafting team crushes every race, and that's what they use. I'm not sure it's the best boat for racing, but they crush every race. Not every race. Like Tim Brink specifically, when he's there, they crush races. When he's not there, they don't always crush races. But they do really well. I have this wing boat I want to race with Dougie this year that I think is faster because it's lighter. But we didn't take it on the wind a couple years ago because it was low water, and I wanted a smaller boat.
Which boat is that, Zach?
It's that yellow wing. That boat we took last time, that super stiff yellow wing.
You think you'd want the longest, narrowest boat you could find?
Yep. I think that's what you're going for. Yep. So this boat's a little wide, but it's really stiff. And I think stiff helps too. Anytime the boat's bending, there's like energy loss, and this will just I think power through things really well. We're gonna crush it, Dougie. So anyway, I think one thing I want to point out is he's running pins and clips. Would you guys want pins and clips on this section? I didn't see this part yet.
Sure. I wouldn't want to row a cat though.
Would you rather row a raft or just like not row at all?
I'd rather row a raft.
Because you don't want the thing I think I agree. Like you want the raft to kind of fit through channels, not the pointy ends to get stuck on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm not. Maybe I'm just not as good at it too. Someone who's good with the cat probably knows how to get it to work better for them. But
it's a non-locking carabiner. Did you guys see that? Mm-hmm. They're everywhere. I'm telling you, I'm seeing them all the time. I mean, I guess I don't know what to think about non-locking carabiners.
Honestly. I mean, I think it's a newer concept to not use them. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it's like when I started boating, we all bought two locking.
Newer concept, Doug?
When I started boating in '95, they told us to buy, I think, 2 non-locking and 1 locking beaner for guide school.
Yeah, so 1995, 2005, 2015.
It's almost 30 years.
Like almost. We're almost to 30 years, Doug.
Okay, so maybe not new concept.
6 years ago. I think it's been. I think like I feel like I haven't been using non-locking since the early 2000s. Maybe. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been hearing it for 20 years at least. Don't have non-lockers.
Yeah.
I don't think the Clackamas Festival is happening. I think it's the Clackamas River is still closed because of the fire.
So are we going to talk about rowing skills? Are we going to do that?
Well, I mean, is that what you want to get onto?
Rowing progression part 2. We advertised it.
All right.
Bill wants to hear about it. He wants to get back on the river.
All right. This video is so. I know you're bored of it, Aaron, but let's watch this one more rapid. Can we watch one more rapid, and then we'll get into it? Oh,
that's fine. Yeah.
I just think it's such interesting. I mean, talk about rowing skills. That needed a ship, but I mean, it's hard to ship. Oh, they're up in the road to Clackamas. I think they're still not going to run the festival. I think there's been too much. My guess is they're not. There's been too much uncertainty.
What's 224?
It's the road. Highway 224 goes up the Clackamas River. It's been closed since the fire 2 years ago. The Forest Service is. I don't know, how do I say this? I'm not going to say anything. I'll let somebody else chime in. All right. Well, we can watch this next week. This is some really cool video. I love the Smith River. Aaron, before we get into that, I got one more video for you, and then because this all has to do with rowing. Let me fast forward. I think something exciting happens here. Oh yeah, there's this. Is this a swim? This rapid. This is almost unrecognizable at this level. But like this rapid and a cat, what do you guys think? It's pretty nasty. Oh, they're lining it. That's what's going on. Okay, they agree it's nasty. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know how you run this in a cat safely. And on the right side there's like this nasty civvy thing. There's a lot of nasty stuff in this rapid where a swim could be terrible. Yeah, it looks like they're lining all the boats. It's probably smart. Oh, wait. Oh, and then this is actual Oregon hole here, which is uninteresting. All right, I'll stop doing that. Okay, Aaron, I got one more video for you. Then we'll talk about. I think you'll like this one.
All right,
I hope.
see it.
I feel like I'm losing you.
I'm gonna say this: hanging out with you guys makes me feel pretty dark. Like you guys are pretty pale.
Well, you live in Hawaii. You're tan.
I know, it's funny. And around here, I feel like I'm pasty white. And I hang out with you guys. I'm like, oh, I'm not that white.
I mean, Dougie's half Mexican. So how dare you? First of all, that's racist. Second of all, we live in Oregon in the winter. I don't think I've seen. Oh, it's blue skies right now, but we rarely see the sun. All right, Aaron, this is Cherry Creek footage, so I thought you'd like it. There's Adam.
that'll be fun.
Somebody was texting me the other day or messaging me about the downstream ferry, and if it's a technique people should learn and use. And this was in the context of the Grand Canyon, because they watched that Tips for Grand Canyon rowing, and it just pushes downstream ferries so hard.
That's all you need to be able to do to get down Grand Canyon is the downstream ferry.
Yeah. And I think he was frustrated because like, well, I'm a California boater. In California, we learned to pole and ferry and drop over things. And I was like, I think that works for a lot of stuff. But I remember the entrance. Is this what you do in the entrance of Mushroom? This Mushroom on Cherry Creek, a really big rapid. I was like, oh, yeah. I also downstream ferry in the entrance of Mushroom.
Yeah. And the entrance of Toadstool.
Which is it's a little weird of a downstream ferry, but would you call that, I mean, a downstream ferry right there? Okay. Because I looked at this a lot the other day and thought I want to ask you about it because he's not like he's like 90 degrees to the current. He's not downstream like you see sometimes. But I mean, it's the idea of a downstream ferry, right? It's the concept.
Yeah, I mean, he's still not pulling upstream
and breaking that lateral and catching that eddy, basically. This move I'll never forget. When I did a trip with Aaron or Dan Martin once, and as we're doing this, he's like, "Oh, this Dan's first time down Cherry Creek." He goes, "Oh, just like the move of Blossom." And I was like, he said that right at this exact moment. I started laughing. It was pretty funny. And then Toadstool. Let's look at Toadstool. I think comes up here. And for those of you who want to watch, this is Mushroom. It's a big, long, messy, complicated rapid with the ends in this big drop. Have you ever seen anybody surf this bottom drop, Aaron?
Oh yeah.
Rafts?
Oh yeah. I've got a great photo of Ben Fadley going down just to the right of him and like looking over at the boat. This boat's just getting hammered in the hole, and he's just with his people just like cruising by. A guy, Marty everyone wants us to talk a guide to coming back off the couch, and this is a place yeah, I don't want to be one of those guys. I'll just say that. And so yeah, they were surfed over there. This actually safety kayak. This kayaker actually jumped in the boat and helped them get out because the guide fell out, and then the guy went down and flipped right here at Toadstool right after that. So he swam twice in 150 feet.
So this is Toadstool right here. It's another nasty rapid right after Mushroom. Like it's just back to back. And in our kayak, there's a sweet move to the right, nice boof. I have a great photo of Dougie boofing that from a long time ago, actually. But the raft line is kind of a complicated move to the left. And I never thought about the entrance being a downstream ferry, but I think you're definitely there. It is
totally,
right there.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yep.
Yeah, right there.
I don't think that's the hard part. This is the hard part right here. All this dancing.
But that's the hard part. If you hit the right spot in the entrance, the rest of it goes fine. If you don't hit you don't get that downstream ferry right at the beginning, you're done. You're not gonna get through it. You're gonna end up over there in that catcher's mitt where that boat is, which sometimes people paddle out of it, but it's messy. This is such great footage with the drone.
Is this a Miracle Mile? I can't even tell where we're at right now.
Blind
is this that
Faith.
first rapid? That's Blind Faith?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've done this. I don't even remember that rapid. Is that right after the one where you go far left in that narrow chute?
Well, the entrance in it is far left on this one.
Oh yeah, I know
where
we're at.
And then you kind of work your way back to the middle, and there's big drop. There's a bunch of drops. We used to go far right here. It used to be that crush point where you get slammed against that wall.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've started running down the middle again.
This is really amazing. This is the best Cherry Creek footage I've ever seen. It really does give a sense of just what is this?
Can we go back and look at that? Look at that. The footage of. This is Blind Faith still. Can we go back and look
Unknown
at
Soldier?
Toadstool
Is
again?
Blind Faith the one right after Unknown Soldier? Because Unknown Soldier, then Blind Faith.
Right. Unknown Soldier. There's Unknown Soldier, and then there's like Ugly Stump, and then there's
is this Ugly Stump right
Crossing, here? And then there's and then what's the other one? Whitewater Voyages used to call it All Effed Up. I can't think of that
Sky
one.
King?
No. Sky King's way down farther. Sky King is right after. Sky King's right after Blind Faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
I'm trying to think of the name of that.
I used to have every inch of this river memorized. Now I don't even know where I am right now.
Yeah, let me see here.
That's a downstream ferry right there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good example of why it's like it's a great technique for big water, but like when you start running really hard stuff, the downstream ferry is a pretty important move.
Just catching eddies.
Yeah.
On California, I mean, use it all the time. The downstream ferry to catch the eddy in a boat like this, you pull them backwards, get that butt in, and then you spin around, right? That's how you catch eddies, basically. You can do it forward, but you can also downstream ferry into it.
That's how you catch difficult eddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back to mushroom again. I only watched that one bit of the footage because I was looking for a video of the downstream ferry and the entrance of mushroom. But anyway, this is super cool footage. Let me get this stuff ready for the stop. Let's get to the run progression now that we're not hour and 12 minutes in. All right. So here's what I did. Last time we had this talk, we talked about like a progression for learning to row or teaching rowing, which is a really hard thing because, and I had remember that chart that was like fishing, overnight, day trip, class 3, class 4, class 5. And people were like, what about class 5 fishing? Things like that. So I think I try to change it now, like based on our talk, like an order of things you might learn when you're rowing. And this is really important to me now because I'm about to teach a month of rowing classes. So I want to get your thoughts. And the first one, Aaron, I moved up. I re-listened to the episode that we did the other day to work on this. I think the point you brought up was really smart to earlier on talk about the dangers of oars pointed to your body, shipping incorrectly, and using your downstream oar. You mentioned teaching that first. Do you like where this is at, or do you teach that first?
It depends on where we are. If you're in a pool and they're just paddling around in a pool, I won't really worry about it right away. I'll just let them kind of just get themselves familiar with it and just play around with the oars a little bit. And I won't even give them much instruction. I'll be like, yeah, here, hop on, just play around with the oars a little bit, get a feel for it. And then kind of watch them and then see what's going on with them and then give them some input based upon what they're doing. But if it's like if we're going downstream and it's there's some shallow spots, I'll say, okay, hey, before you get on, a couple things, and I'll show that stuff and talk about it while I'm actually still rowing, even just so they know before they hop on. They're like, hey, this is some stuff that can be an issue. So,
okay, so here's what I think that you said just now. Start them off in a flat water or a lake. Let them just play with it a little bit, do some forward strokes, do some back strokes, and then talk about dangers, like the order I just put it. Then talk about some of the dangers of the oars.
Well, depending, I might even talk a little bit about rowing technique too there before talking about the dangers. Like if they're trying to row and figure it out, I'd be like, oh, hey, they're only like pushing, I'd be like, hey, try pulling. If they're only pulling, I'd say, hey, try pushing too. And if they're doing both of those things fine, I'd be like, hey, try turning the boat. And I say, try using both oars. Give them a little bit more than what they've figured out so far, and then talk about the safety stuff.
So do you see the document I put up?
Yeah.
Okay. So so far it's good, right? Like body mechanics on flat water, practice forward, practice pushing, practice pulling, talk about dangers. Turning is right soon, but I thought like getting shipping in super easy too. Like just practice the motion of let's just practice the motion of a proper ship.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To make it like second nature. So you're at least trying it, getting that in early. So I would call this first ones like the things you do before you hit the river, right? Up to practice, and then up to practice turning strokes, and then I'm a big fan of like eddies and ferrying. Just when people are learning, once they have the basics, just really hammer catching eddies and ferrying. What do you think?
That sounds good. I think it differs. Like when you teach your courses, everyone has their own raft. And so it makes more sense to talk to everyone at once before they get in the rafts. If you're in a place, like usually when I'm teaching people to row, it's like on a trip I'm working, or, the pro guide schools, it's usually, multiple people in the raft together. And so in those cases, I just want to get out in the water and get going and get them practice time, because I'm worried about them gaining enough time rowing. And so I'll spend less time on shore with those groups, because I know there's a guide in each boat to instruct and to give more of the details.
So you don't have to do group stuff. You can just like, hey, there's a guide there to share with a few people.
Yeah, and as guides we talked about before, hey, let's make sure we cover these topics this morning, before we hop in the boats.
I mean, I think, and the idea of this progression isn't for like how we teach and how you teach it. It's just for like the normal person learning to row.
Yeah.
Like what is the normal person, like somebody out there who is a private boater that wants to improve. What is the what would I go through? So
if it's a private boater who wants to improve, I'd talk first about not getting yourself hurt.
You put danger.
So I'd move that stuff to the beginning.
But guides you wouldn't. Guides you'll let them be on flat water before they. This isn't
usually yeah. Depends on the situation. Depends.
Like you're saying, guides are better not getting hurt. Is what you're saying?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm saying if you're giving this someone who's going to learn to row on their own, I'd put that first. And they're reading this and then going out and practicing, I'd put in that order.
Okay. I mean, for us too, going back to like getting on the water, we have to when we do rowing schools, we have to get going. We have to make miles. So we're not spending a lot of time on shore. It's like, here's some basic stuff. Let's go make miles, because we have to get to camp that night. So we're definitely not doing too many talks.
Well, I think I'd still just put those first, and just be like, hey man, most people, they don't get hurt by wrapping a boat or flipping the boat. They get hurt because their oars hurt them.
Yeah. I mean, I've been teaching private classes lately, just me and one person, and some of the bigger rapids, I say, hey, you're gonna be fine. What's gonna hurt you are the oars. So, here we go. Let's get to this in a second. I'm like, hey, above a rapid, I'm like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Repeat it back to me, what you're going to do. Cool. I want to reiterate, the most dangerous thing is the oars. So if you're all worried, just get them away from you. And I'm saying that over and over and over. Like that's what I'm most worried about, hurting people. We're teaching open locks to the oar rates. So I think most people new to it have read enough articles that and they just think the open lock's the way to go. And I find when people are learning, oar rights are crucial. Some people will be like, no, just learn right to begin with. But most people really struggle so much the first couple of days without oar rights that it's defeating. And so we have the convertible ones. So people once they feel good with the oar rights, if they want to flip them up, they can. But yeah, we teach open roll. We don't even have any pins and clips in our classes anymore, because it's just one more thing to confuse people. And I would say most people aren't in a class to go run the wind or to go get rad. they're in a class to go run the Rogue and the main salmon and maybe the Middle Fork someday, where spinnies are just fine. Or probably better. Spinnies are probably even better for that stuff. Okay, so here's an interesting.
Zach, I think the most important thing is ship your oars early.
I have that later down.
But I think that's. I mean, even when we're working Cherry Creek trips, that's one of the first things Adam told me. Who were watching, he's like, ship your oars and ride your gear. He's like, don't try to get that extra stroke in. Just ship your oars and hope for the best, because the boat's usually going to come out upright. You try to get that extra stroke in.
Yeah.
Too many guys got hurt by their oars.
We call it, you'll see it down below there at the bottom. I call it making the move before you make the move. Like get done before you get there, and then just ship your oars and hold on. Like your oars are not a tool you get to use in a lot of rapids. Like on easy rapids, yeah, you can use them all you want. But as you start doing class 4 narrow chutes and things, you don't get to use your oars. And so you got to make your move before the move happens. So one debate thing is when we're teaching catching eddies, we're teaching to like pull across the eddy line, pull upstream, have an ferry angle, and pull across the eddy line. We teach that first because it's super defensive. And then so I have ferrying, and then we talk about catching eddies by pushing into them and crossing the eddy line on a push. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Cool.
I mean,
so for me, the progression is like just learn how to pull, like fight the eddy line, pull across it, catch an eddy. And then once you master that, let's talk about like I call it piercing the eddy, piercing through on a push. Boy, I'm really boring you today, Aaron. You're the you wanted.
It seems like Dougie's way more interested than I am.
Yeah.
Pushing is I mean, it's hard to push into an eddy. I imagine people learning to row are going to have a hard time catching some of the bigger eddies pushing. But
I mean, I'm going to say this, Zach, if you're talking about catching eddies by pulling, I'd almost put downstream ferrying right with that.
It's pretty close. I mean, look at that. I have ferrying, pushing, catching eddies while pushing. I threw surfing in and then downstream ferries. Just to break it up.
What do you mean by an aggressive ferry? What's an aggressive ferry?
I mean, so when you're ferrying and you're just, and I just did this quickly this morning, so don't judge me too much. A ferry is generally about 45 degrees of the river, and you're just like ferrying across the river, and the water's pushing the boat over. You with me on this? Like a ferry, a ferry.
Yeah, I don't like to teach that.
Don't like to teach what?
The 45 degree upstream ferry.
What do you teach?
Get more angle.
Well, how much angle is more angle, for example?
Well, I think one of the things that like, and this isn't always best with oars, but definitely with paddles, is like get perpendicular to current.
Okay,
so I think a lot of people don't even understand where the current's going, and I think when you're like teaching them, if you have them say, "Hey, get your boat perpendicular to current," it makes it clear to you as an instructor what they think the current is doing, and I think that's a really important step in that process. Is you got to understand where the current is taking you. And like if you don't have that, they'll be pulling upstream and they won't really understand their angle. And I think they're much more likely to lose their angle when they're pulling. You see that a lot. People are pulling, they lose their angle, and all of a sudden they're pulling back out into the middle of the river.
I'm with you 100%. This is a debate Peter Fox and I have. And Peter Fox is on your side. And so it's hard to disagree with both of you. And that's what I'm going to call aggressive ferries. 90 degrees to the current.
I'd say the only problem with it that I have is the downstream oar.
Let me tell you something, and let me tell you why I have a problem with what I just said. Let's hear it, Aaron.
Oh, I just saying you got to be careful with your downstream oar when you're.
No kidding. And you don't want new people playing downstream oar games.
Yeah, but if you have them if you tell them not to point the oar with their bodies, keep the oars out in front, and they pull and stop out here, it's not usually a problem.
Not usually a problem.
The thing is you're doing most of your courses in the Columbia Gorge where you're on like 20 CFS and it's like super shallow and rocky everywhere, but when you're on a regular sized river, like the Clackamas, if you're teaching on the Clackamas,
it's not always 20 CFS. Sometimes it's 30.
Sometimes it's 40. Yeah, I got you.
I mean, I teach on other rivers around here that have more water than the Hood had when you saw it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'm teaching the hood at low water.
Yeah.
So we have to watch downstream oars, which is a good. I mean, I love teaching it on the hood at low water because it forces good oar management. You can't cheat. You get instant punishment early. You can't just get away with bad oar management.
No, I mean, when we're teaching the pro guide schools, Ben and I, we're always looking for low water. If it's a high water year, we're going to try to find something low water that just humbles the students, where they have to check their momentum. They can't just go long forwards, long backwards. They have to know where they are. They have to, short stroke, short commands. And the same is true with the rowing, like the oar management stuff, same idea.
And the great thing about, for me, low water teaching is that the consequence is usually getting stuck on a rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if it's higher water, the consequence is a flip or a swim or a surf. And so like teaching, it's like really hard and teaches you a lot of important skills, but the consequences aren't typically that bad. You're like, oh, okay, I messed up. I got stuck. I got a little bit of punishment here. Not something that would make you stop boating.
No.
But I want to get back to this angle thing, Aaron. This is, I think, really important because I disagree with you. I think people need to learn to ferry, like traditionally ferry.
Oh, no, I think I'm not saying that they shouldn't. Not at all. I would work on that too, but I would work on that more. Okay, I want you to get the boat to the other side of the river.
That's what I'm saying.
I want you to pull it out of an eddy, maintain your angle, go all the way to the other side of the river.
Yeah, ferrying.
Yeah,
that's ferrying. So when I say ferrying here, after catching it, exiting eddies, I'm like, hey, let's work on like the concept of a ferry, so you understand. You feel the water pushing in your boat at a 45-ish angle and pushing across. That's an important thing people should understand.
Yeah.
Whether or not they do it correctly, I think it's an early fundamental thing.
Yeah.
And so when I get to, so it's ferrying, pushing, catching eddies, surfing waves, downstream ferries, and then aggressive ferries. That's the 90 degree to the current. Just pull yourself over to the shore. I
think in general, when you're challenged, you want to get more angle.
More aggressive.
And I think most of the people, when I see them screwing up a run, is they don't have enough angle. And that's why I wouldn't start with the ferrying. I would start with the perpendicular to the current.
It's interesting.
Right? I mean, you see it all the time. You're like, dude, more angle.
No, I get that they do that.
It's always like more angle, more
when
angle.
People are really green, I want them to feel a ferry back and forth across the river. Let's find an eddy that's on both sides of the current. Let's ferry. That's that step. And then the 90 degree comes later. But what I'll say is like, I'll teach you 45-ish, but what you want is 45 to 90. And above 90 is a downstream. So like, we're going to introduce these ideas like ferrying, normal ferrying, whatever that means, downstream ferries, aggressive ferries, which is a lot of angle. I'm not going to call it 90. I'm going to call it aggressive. I'm going to say it's between 40 and 90, like 45 and 90. You're really going for it. That's what aggressive ferrying is.
To me, it almost seems like 90 degrees is not ferrying anymore. You're making a move to river right or left. But that's just semantics. But I mean, I would call it ferry.
Well, that is a ferry when you're ferrying across the river. That's the whole idea, right? You're moving from one side of the river to the other.
I guess I would say a ferry for me is when you're making that move by minimizing your downstream motion, which you are if you're parallel to the river. But I'm sorry, perpendicular river. But ferrying is like trying to slow down the conveyor belt of the river a little bit.
I'm going to explain it as you're either going faster or slower than the current. A downstream ferry, you're going faster than the current. An upstream ferry, you're going slower than the current. You're changing your speed relative to the river and letting the river push you to the side. Is that what you're trying to say, Freshie?
The downstream ferry, you're going faster than the river. Yeah. I got you. Okay. And upstream. Okay.
And it is providing a ferrying effect. Because you're going fast in the river, like it's hard to point out in my hands, but so you're going so fast, the river is actually providing a ferrying on you when you're doing it.
It's most efficient to be perpendicular to the current.
If your goal is to get to the side of the river, yeah. But if your goal is to maneuver inside of a rapid, that's not going to be like if you just have to go 4 feet. Pulling 90 degrees, you have to get 90 degrees, pull over, get 90 degrees back. So it depends on your tool. Are you teaching people to get to shore or are you teaching them to maneuver in a rapid? And I'm going to claim teaching the idea of ferrying helps them maneuver in rapids and the aggressive ferries help you get to a place you need to get to fast. What do you think of that?
I think if I want them to know, if I were to choose and be like, they can only know one of those two, I'd want them to know the 90-degree ferry.
Ooh, that's an interesting debate. If you only knew one. If you didn't know how to ferry, how you couldn't run rapids?
Well, just 90 degrees. Yeah, you can.
All the
I
time.
teach students this all the time. I'll be just keep your. This is something that a lot of students don't understand. Like, just keep your boat perpendicular to the current the whole time, and just go forward and backward, and you can run the whole river pretty much
That's
like this.
super rad when you're paddle boating, but not when you have oars in your hands and you have a constant downstream oar. And Aaron, I get that you're like, Mr. Cavignola, the king of all river guides, and we allow you to have a downstream oar because you know how to manage it and do all the little tricks to keep it from going deep. But when people are learning, they're doing these big, deep strokes, and they're just going to they don't have any respect for downstream oar violations.
Let's look at some comments.
You mean the one where you're right? Hold on. Let's get to Death Angles. Big Fork. Yep, I haven't been, but it sounds cool. I agree with Aaron. This one actually. It's more intuitive than I add. It's a good way to do it. Start 90 degrees and move up. It's certainly interesting. I think part of he tends on teach on big more open rivers.
No, and I think like I said, Zach, I would not be doing that if our teaching in the hood and on those the rivers you were running up there. I would not start with that. I do feel like what I've noticed about guides is most guides aren't good at getting perpendicular current. They like to pull upstream.
That's a problem.
To pull downstream.
Well, let's get to that in a second. Remind me that in a second. And I'm trying. I don't feel like this is a talk about guides. I think this is talk about boaters.
No, totally. But I think if it's a problem for commercial guides, it's even more of a problem with private boaters, and because like private boaters, you just hang out with your friends. Commercial guides, you got someone who's your boss who's gonna be like, no, dude, you can't do it that way. And that's what's even more intriguing. It's like, those people aren't telling them they can't do it that way, and they still do it that way.
Well, I think what I've seen a lot, both commercial and private, is people above a nasty hole, and they need to turn their boat and just pull away from it. Yep. They need to pull their boat 90 degrees and just get to shore.
Yeah.
And they're just above it, pulling upstream of it, totally. And they just pull, and they're basically dumping. They're scared. They don't know what to do, and they end up in the hole and flip. I think that's what you're getting at. Is like they need an aggressive angle to just get away from that danger.
Exactly.
And I'm
going to say this. When little guys like Doug and I are behind big, strong dudes like Zach, and they start pulling upstream at the top of the rapid, and you're like, dude, we can't pull as hard as you do. And so all of a sudden the rafts behind you are backing up, and they're trying to not run into you.
What are you talking about?
Oh, come on.
You're saying don't pull?
I'm saying don't pull upstream. Like I've seen guys just like they want to look a little longer, figure out the line, so they're pulling back upstream. Yeah. And you're like, dude, you're like, I can't do that. I'm not as strong as you.
You should join a gym.
Yeah. Put on another 60 pounds. 60 pounds.
Do some roids. Get yourself some creatine. We're putting Dougie in a steroid program for the race.
Increase my weight by 50%.
Increase your weight. Yeah. Let's get you some guns. Let's get you some. You have a swimmer's body. Let's get you a Schwarzenegger body.
Oh, yeah. Schwarzenegger was a swimmer, by the way, but that's separate.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
About catching. Yeah, I've taught him with you on that. I think Aaron is flippant because he's such a river god.
No, I'm saying I think it depends on the river you're teaching on. But
I can tell you. Let's get. Hold on. I want to finish one topic and remind me to get back to the river you're teaching on. I think the problem why people point towards rocks and holes and pull back is because they're taught pull away from dangers.
Exactly.
And so, hold on, you just get this. Our new terminology here is pull away from the line to danger. So imagine there being a line to the danger and pull away from that line.
Basically, you're saying get perpendicular to the current and pull to the side of the river you want to be on.
I'm saying pull away. Don't pull away from the actual danger. Pull away from a line going to that danger. And that probably will mean, get perpendicular.
The line going to the river is this way, and you're saying pull away from that line, you're saying perpendicular to the current, right? Am I missing something?
Well, when I say pull away, you don't have to pull away perfectly 90 degrees to the line. Just pull away from that line. Get yourself away from that line. What happens is people in that line, they're pulling away from the danger. So just pull away from that line to the danger. And for me, that I've had better success in my teaching by changing that piece of it. where are we at? Blossom Bar, as an example. I'm not sure what you're asking there. Like, we pull it up and use it as an example.
Are you going to use an upstream ferry, downstream ferry, perpendicular to the current?
I think I'm perpendicular to the current. I think my intention is to do a downstream ferry, but I think I'm actually perpendicular to the current. Let's catch up with comments.
Great comments here.
Yeah, hold on. Bow type is important. A class 4 boarder should be definitely able to 98. Yeah, yep. I think what we're at, Peter, still is that we're still talking about nuances of when you teach what for beginner rowers. To be reactive.
I agree, Heidi. I think you want to teach more proactive rowing. And I think that's the idea of like looking downstream. Okay, I want to get to the left side of the river, get perpendicular current, and pull to the left side of the river. If you're doing an upstream ferry in general, it's because you're getting too close to the object.
No, I think, Aaron, the issue is you think your thinking is using a ferry to avoid an object, which we do. And I agree. 90 degrees is super smart. But I think we use ferries for so many things on the river that aren't just avoiding objects.
Such as?
Getting from one side of the river to the other. If I'm on this,
that is the other one. That is the other one.
I'm going to ferry.
And that's the one where you don't. And I agree. You're going from one side of the river to the other. Yep.
Totally. Or like from one side of the river to an eddy in the middle. Like there's a lot of moves where you need to do
basically the same thing, Zach. You're just going halfway across the river.
Yeah. And my point is there's two things we're talking about here. I'm saying regular ferrying is an important skill to maneuver in rapids. You're thinking, teach 9 degrees so people can just avoid obstacles. I think we're on the same page.
I'm not saying just teach that. I'm just saying I think there needs to
prioritize that.
I think there needs to be much more emphasis on that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's why I put aggressive ferries.
I see too many people who have not grasped that.
Yeah. What I see is too many people parallel to the river, smacking oars and popping oars.
Parallel or perpendicular?
Perpendicular to the current. So I see way too many people sideways, and they're popping oars left and right. And
I'd be so happy if I saw that. I don't see that often at all.
I'm actually teaching them to generally stay in like 45-ish range when they're in the river, and not to get too sideways, so they don't pop oars. But when you need to make an aggressive move, then you can get aggressive and pull away. But I don't want oar boaters sideways in the river. It's just like it's until you get better, because you can manage the oars.
Thanks, Franz.
Yeah, I mean, we're still trying to figure our way through this, Franz. I mean, there's so much to it. I think we're stuck. I think, Aaron, you're stuck. Like you're stuck in a certain way of thinking, not a way of thinking.
No, I'm not stuck at all.
You've taken a position and you're not going to budge.
Well, I haven't heard any reason to budge on it, because I want to be able to row from one side of the river to the other. Yeah, I'll teach that too. But
yeah, no, I agree. We agree.
I think
they should both be taught.
Too many people pulling up, as you saw, pulling upstream into the current, not getting enough of an angle.
So,
come back to
okay, is 45 degrees enough? Yes. You're worried about 60.
I'm going to say barely.
Okay, there you go. That's the beginning. 45 is the beginning.
But the problem is people lose their angle when they start pulling, and that's why I want them to learn to get that boat perpendicular to the current first.
Okay, so that we can move on from this, and I can move on in my life. I want to say, where we disagree is you're going to teach people to do 90 degrees first, and you'll teach them to do a normal ferry second. I'm going to teach them to do a normal ferry first, and then 90 degrees second. That's where
I'm just going to say this. When I feel like I'm going to say this. I teach the 90 degrees first, or I focus on the 90 degrees when you get a feeling that they don't understand the current and where the current's going.
All right, whatever.
Okay, what's next?
All right, so
we got more comments.
All right, hey guys, the book. Oh, cool, yeah. Glad you enjoyed it. We sent him Vlad's book. He won a contest, which we could. It's going to be hard to do contests next few weeks because I'm going to be gone a lot. Teaching verbally on every type of ferry. But when you're starting, you should go have a go to ferry ankle. I think he's agreeing with me, but I'm not sure. And so anyway, I have it in here early on. Aggressive ferries, I call it aggressive. It's in early on. Can we move on in here? Thanks for getting us going fresh. Do you teach tracking?
Are you kidding?
I don't teach it.
I know you don't. Yes, totally.
I think you
teach tracking.
How do you teach tracking? People just kind of figure it out.
I'm going to go back to this stuff and say, like, I'm about trying to teach them to understand what the river is doing to the raft. That's one of my main objectives in the course, is for them to understand what the river is doing to the raft.
I'm going to need to take your class because I don't know what the river. How do you know what?
Make better decisions.
How do you teach people what the river is doing to the raft? How do you teach them that?
Well, first of all, hey, get perpendicular current. No, you're not perpendicular current. You need to be like, there, that's perpendicular current. Okay, just stay perpendicular current. I just want you to keep your boat perpendicular current. If you need to move a little this way, move a little this way. You need to move a little that way. Move a little left, move a little left. You need to move a little right, move a little to the right. And then pretty soon afterwards, the tracking doesn't work very well when you've got a boat with one person in it by themselves, because it just doesn't have the weight in it for the tracking to work that well. You need to have your boat. And usually I'm teaching people who are rowing gear boats, or that's an oar-paddle combo with, like 4 paddlers in it. And so those track pretty well. And so, I just talk about, I was like, okay, put the boat at this angle and just hold the angle and don't push. And what happens? Oh, we work to the left side of the river. Yep. Okay, now we're working to the right side of the river. Well, why is that? Oh, there's more resistance from those little waves. There's more resistance against the long side of the river than the upturned nose. And so it wants to move this way as it's getting slowed down this way, so it wants to move this way.
Zach, I would say the rivers up here where you're teaching don't have as much time don't have as much open sections to practice or see that, and also you're not in the raft with them to explain that to them.
Yeah, and the features aren't the features just aren't as big. It's so low and technical. It's a different scene, which I think is great in a lot of ways.
It depends on the flows. Like there's always a variety. So sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. Lately, being a mega drought, things have been on the lower end for sure. But I feel like tracking is something you kind of learn from just having it happen to you.
I think it's really hard to early on. But I think the other problem, Zach, is I like to talk about tracking just so that they understand how an upstream ferry is problematic, because you're working against the tracking of the raft.
That's a good point.
And that's one of the big reasons I teach that, is to be like, hey, understand when you're pulling upstream, what's the tracking of the raft doing? Oh, it's taking you right where you don't want to go. If you get more of an angle, the tracking's doing less. Less of an angle, the tracking's going to do more.
But I think, let's just help me get here. I think there's a difference in, I want to make clear to everybody, you and I teach very different things when we teach. I'm teaching people rowing by themselves in a raft without much weight. You're teaching people rowing kind of heavy boats. And so tracking is a big factor in heavy boats, where like in lighter boats, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and
so
I'm trying to prepare people to be able to row heavy boats. Yeah.
So like that's in like guides more.
Add just the way that Aaron teaches, the method is he's in the raft with them. So you can say you can explain what's going on with the river and how it's affecting the boat, versus if you're teaching in a class, you can talk about it, but connecting it with what's actually happening in the river 10 minutes later or an hour later.
Yeah, but you can still you can make your little cardboard raft, and then on shore, draw something up and show it. Like you can do it pretty quick in a quick little talk.
Yeah. But I feel like the connection comes when they actually feel it happening to the boat. And
it's just something that's hard. I think that it's something people just sort of, my opinion is like, it's really hard to teach that topic. I guess if you're there in the raft with them, you can be like, hey, do this. And I see it, do that. Okay, cool. Do this. But it's something I think people just sort of pick up over time. It's like magically happens.
The tracking helps you with catching eddies too. That's a crucial part of understanding why you want to have a downstream angle going into an eddy, because you're using tracking, you're using the force of the river on the back of the boat to help push you into those eddies.
So I would explain why that completely differently. I would say the reason you're pushing into eddies is to break through laterals and cross the eddy line, like piercing through it.
Which so you are doing that as well, but you're also tracking. The raft is doing a lot of the work for you with the downstream.
Yeah, no, it's definitely easier, but like you're like the main reason to point into an eddy is across all the stuff.
Yeah, but you don't have to push it. You barely have to push if your boat's a little heavier. You'll just kind of track in there, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, we're good to go. So
Yeah. Yep.
no, I want them to understand what the river's doing and what how the raft is working with the river, and I want to make sure they have the basic stuff to keep them safe and understand the basic techniques to apply later. Like, because they'll figure out how to apply the techniques better over time, but I want them to have that kind of that fundamental understanding of this is the environment we're working in. This is how it operates.
That sounded to me like none of that made any sense to me. That just sounded like words that mean nothing. Like,
well, you went to a theoretical school, Zach. I want them to understand the theory.
He described your curriculum sort of right there on the screen to me. Like, talk about things that can hurt you, and then you learn tools to use to help you later, which is what all these things are.
I mean, this is me. Remember, we did this in a previous episode, taking that talk and turning this into like a part 2. So do you, Aaron? I mean, I guess the question is, are you like, yeah, this looks pretty good actually, or like,
I mean, the content you have in there is great. The making the move before you make the move. I understand what you're saying with it, but I feel like there's a better way. We could say that in a way that's makes more sense. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like reading, even though we're all experienced at rafting. If I see that, make the move before you make the move.
Well, you have to explain it. You have to explain what that means. Like, hey, what I mean by that is like you have to make the move before you get there. Like, you don't get to use your oars anymore. The way I explain it is like your oars are like a sledgehammer pounding in a nail. Like, they're really good at pounding in nails if you do it right, but you know, if you hold your fingers there and pound the nail, and you're gonna get hurt. So you gotta be careful. And if you just put the nail there and hammer it, you might hit it, you might not. And so like you have these big unwieldy tools. They're really good at getting you set up at the top, but you can't keep using them. You can't go up here and start using them. And so you gotta like you have to sometimes just ship, and you got your position, angle, momentum done before you got there. So I put more information into that part. But I think that's a big topic because people don't start making the move till those in the rapid.
Well, and I think that's make your move early is always key too. I think that, like, you have a good point that's one subset is that you're not gonna be able to use your oars as well, but making your move early too is like, if I'm 50 feet up above the rock I need to miss and I start working left, I need to do like half the strokes than if I'm like, 20 feet away from it. I'm going to have to work way harder to avoid that rock to get left of it. So I think there's that aspect of you've got more space to work with your oars, which is a good point, but also just when you make your move earlier, you're setting yourself up for success.
I mean, I think making your move earlier applies to all boating.
Yeah.
Kayaking, paddle boating, totally. Rowing.
So I wonder if you just want to say that, make your move early.
But that's my point is I think making your move early is like, this is rowing specific, right? This is just
these people aren't taking any of the classes. They're only taking this class.
No, I'm saying if this isn't, by the way, this isn't my curriculum. This is just a rowing progression based on our last talk. My rowing curriculum has a bazillion other things in it, right? This is just like rowing specific things. So like, I think making your move early is a good general boating thing, but with rowing, it's like really, really important because you don't get used to you stop. Like when you're paddle boating, you want to make your move early, but you can still make maneuvers in the rapid.
I mean, Zach, most of the stuff is general river running, catching and exiting eddies, sparing.
Yeah, but waves, I mean, this is in the context of all of this is in the context of rowing. What you're going to learn when you're rowing like this. I think making your move early is just something we tell people to do in all boating. And I get the ferrying is, but ferrying in an oar boat is a little different than ferrying in a kayak. Like teaching ferrying in a kayak, you're worried about like angle or like your lean, a bunch of other stuff. So we have to teach.
Use the oars before the rapid instead of in the rapid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is catchier.
Okay.
Well, I like the ship your oars and ride your gear. Don't try to do that last oar stroke.
Ship your oars and ride your gear. So that's the same thing. Yeah, I mean that's how this came out.
I think that's what I mean is I think you can say it in a way that's a little more clear. Like, hey, don't try to do that last stroke. It's better your boat bounces something than you get beat up by your oar.
I mean, I think what I'm saying is even a tiny bit different than that because don't use your last stroke is a great advice for a class 4 boater becoming a class 5 boater. They already know that they don't get to use their oars. But like Adam's advice is like, hey, just err on the side of don't take that extra stroke. Like just get done way early. When I'm teaching people, it's like they're making that transition from class 2 to 3, and they don't even think about they don't start making moves till they're in the rapid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you are done. When you enter that rapid, you're done. You have to do all of your things before you get there. And then I think so from 2 to 3, it's like just so you know, you don't get to use them at all. From 4 to 5, it's like, hey, don't take that last stroke. That makes sense.
Doug, can you explain to me what he said?
No, yeah. I mean, I think he's saying that when you're already pretty good, you know when to take the oars out of the water and when to ship them. And Adam's advice to you was err on the side of being early rather than late. Before that, when you're just learning, you need to learn how to run the river without your oars. So get to the right, not without your oars, but with making those moves really early. Because you don't have that judgment yet of when to pull them out of the water. So you have to keep them out of the water once you get to the
Is that what you think you're saying, Zach?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to Hey, let's power through this, get the comments, and go. I'm going to go mountain biking.
Quick story. What's that part on the Tuolumne where there's a narrow slot on the left side?
Oh, Stearns.
Yes. I once broke an oar and it went into my chest and knocked me out of the back of a boat raft once because I tried to get one more stroke in. It was rough.
Yeah, that's a classic spot. Yeah, we got a lot of cool comments.
Yeah. Before we get to comments, you guys have probably read the rest of it. Hopefully, I know, Aaron, you've been glued to the screen. And we don't need to go through like surfing holes, physical fitness, crab strokes. But I feel like surfing is where a lot of people, like there's a lot of learning to be done in surfing. And so once we've done all this stuff, surfing is a big thing.
Well, I think it's interesting you say surfing waves before surfing holes.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been doing it a lot with students. They're scared to surf holes. And there's consequences of surfing holes. Where waves, they try to surf it and they miss. They're like, okay, I missed it. And eventually they get a wave. Like, that's cool. Surfing holes, it's a little more consequential. So that's what I'm thinking there. And I put surfing waves early. They struggle with it for a long time, but we introduced the concept. And they start getting some of them. I'm like, hey, there's a pour over. Try to go into that and see what it does.
And I don't feel like I can ever surf. I can rarely find a wave that I can surf in a raft.
Dougie and I just had a nice long wave surf the other day.
Was it a wave, Dougie, or was it a hole?
It was a wave with a pile. It was a wave with a pile.
Yeah.
It wasn't true. It wasn't a wave with no pile. It wasn't just like a nice glassy like you can surf in a kayak. It had some pile on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm going to differentiate this as a wave and like a pour over hole.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
We had a beautiful surf. It was fun. Well, Aaron, your homework is to you do better. You take this, and I want to see yours next week.
Oh, do better than this?
Yeah, do better than this. I want to see your progression.
My rowing progression?
Yeah, I want to see how you move things around. I'll send this to you. All right, let's get this done. The biggest mistake I make.
Yep, totally.
Hold on. The biggest thing I make too much straight upstream fairings backstrokes.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. Yeah, I think
that's pretty much my point. That's why I like to teach the perpendicular to the current. So
I had the same.
Yeah, Todd, I agree.
Yeah, you can't just be the first one to agree and like, see,
well,
I win.
He agrees with
I
me.
win.
He agrees
with
me.
No, I agree the same thing. I see this happen all the time too. But I think you can teach them to pull away from the line to danger, and that solves it. You don't have to teach them to do something that makes their oar go downstream.
Yeah, definitely.
On a bigger river with multiple, what does that mean? Multiple current sections.
Well, I think he's just right. Higher volume rivers, it's easier. I don't quite know what he means by multiple current sections, but maybe current coming from different spots. So.
Good angle, I think. Yeah, and I think that's
exactly, Sean. Exactly.
This is a common problem.
Perpendicular to the current.
No, Sean said nothing about being perpendicular to the current here. He just said newer boaters get an angle they think, but it isn't enough. That is a common problem.
Yeah, that's why.
It doesn't mean you have to go straight to perpendicular. It doesn't mean you go straight to perpendicular. You say, hey, get more angle.
Totally agree, Heidi. Thanks, Sean.
I would find that beginners overcome too many strokes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially people that learn like are drift boaters.
I find that beginners overcompensate with doing too many strokes, which improves the experience.
No. So what he's saying is beginners are just always rowing all the time. They're just like, they can't just chill out and do nothing. And so, like, as you get better, you take strokes when you need to and then stop. But people that are learning feel like they always have to be doing something with the oars.
Oh, I got which improves with experience.
And they get as you get better, you start realizing you don't have to row the whole time. And you can just do like little. You can just do a little stroke and it'll do there, a little stroke, and you can just kind of like start steering the boat down the river. I mean, Peter Fox describes it as being like carving. Like you can think about oar boats as carving their way down the river, like a snowboard, where you're like, you point it and it goes over there, and then you slowly turn it, and you point it, goes over there. Like there's a rhythm you get into that's pretty interesting when you really are in the right boat in the right place.
You're talking about tracking now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I don't, like I said, Peter loves tracking. I know other people. I use it all the time. I think it's valuable. I just think it's hard to teach. Personally, it's just a hard thing to teach people to do, and they'll learn it on their own. That's just my opinion, though. Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah,
Barry's teaching a junior guide school, huh?
Barry has this massive program that fills up in like 36 hours. This junior Dan Martin sent his kids to it. I think at least one of his kids. It's really Barry's program is really popular. It's a big deal. It's called Junior Guides, I think, on the South Fork. It's super good time. Yeah, I mean this is where it's hard. That's in like this is a third of a rowing school content. This is purely at the very top. I wrote individual technical rowing progression. I put technical in there to be clear. Like there's a bazillion other things that we teach when we're teaching. This is just like the on water technical stuff. But yeah, that's in there for sure. There's a lot more stuff. I mean, there's stuff I put in my course, like throwing a throw bag, tying an anchor to your boat, swimming. There's a whole bunch more stuff in there. Yeah, wait. Get a laugh. Yep. Glad we can entertain you, Heidi.
Oh, nice.
We've been pretty hilarious today. Man, I would love to watch that. I think we're done with it. Can we be done with this, Aaron?
I don't know, Doug. Are we done with it?
Yes.
All right. I have a couple more videos I'd love to share, but we got to go. Let me sum up this show in a couple statements. First of all, Aaron, you were argumentative today, start to finish. I'm gonna make a couple statements. One, that I think hand drills are probably allowed in the wilderness, but probably not good form. Two, the leave no trace principles are good things to know and follow. And as you get better, maybe you can start like using your own judgment. And three, I think we're actually on the same page with all this stuff. You're just being argumentative.
Yeah. I don't know why the leave no tracing is always kind of just like I don't know why it's always just not sat that well with me. I think they make it more complicated than it needs to be. Honestly, I think that's a lot of it too. Is it's just like, dude, don't go out there and like take care of yourself and don't leave a mark behind. So the next person comes doesn't know you've been there.
You could say the same thing about backpacking though. It's more people make it more complicated.
Aaron, this was meant as a wrap up the show, not like giving you a stage.
Oh, this is a chance. Zach gets to wrap up and be like, I'm right.
No, I'm just saying I was trying to put a wrapping on the show instead of giving you an opportunity to grandstand on leave no trace principles.
I just saying like, I feel like it gets a little too much into verbiage and like, it's just like, man,
David, I'm
you
glad
have to memorize all this stuff.
enjoy rafting.
What?
To see that.
Dave, I was saying, David, I'm glad it looks like I enjoy rafting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is Dougie only one seem to be the one that seems to like rafting?
I think we've been on a rant today. This may be one of our worst shows we've ever done. We've been especially entitled and naive today. We've really done it.
Are you speaking about your own position on stuff, Zach?
Yeah, I'm not speaking for you. Trust me, I am not. I'm done arguing with you.
I think it's good to have a conversation about the leave no trace, and just something to think about as we go out there. And what does that actually mean? And like, yeah, cool. I think it makes sense. But
let's wrap the show up.
Yeah,
we've bored people for way too long.
They can always leave. Maybe they all have left. Are we the only ones?
I want to leave. Another what I'm saying is I want to leave. I'm bored. Let's get this over with. Do you want to do the ending?
Yeah, sure. So next week sounds like, Zach, you're not going to be around.
I'm not here, but I have somebody to come on the show. Dougie, hopefully you can make it. The next 2 weeks I'm not here. Thank God after this show. This is a disaster.
Are you going rafting? Yeah, thank goodness for all the people who watch the show. We won't lose them now.
We have to change the name. We have to get rid of the entitled part, and it'll just be naive. Oh, it won't even be naive.
No, it'll be like Aaron and Zach's rafting show without Zach.
Yeah, I'm redoing my Wurfer next week. So I'm in a Wurfer class all week, and then the following week I'm teaching a class. So I'll be gone the next 2 Fridays. But we have an amazing guest 3 Fridays from now. We have Tim Palmer coming on.
Oh, that'll be great.
That's gonna be amazing. That's a world class. That's a real. We're gonna have to be on best behavior. We have an actual good guest.
Doug, just to let you know, you're not a good guest.
Dougie's not a guest. Dougie's a co-host.
Part-time host. Occasional
Okay,
host.
good.
Dougie's
Okay, I thought you were like talking trash about Dougie there.
No, Dougie's the only one here that likes rafting. I mean, he's the glue that keeps the show together.
I think you both like rafting. In fact, I know you both like rafting, but I'm glad it looks like I like rafting.
According to our fans.
Aren't you, Dougie? You're a kayaker.
Yeah.
Would you call yourself a kayaker or a rafter?
Both.
Whoa.
Okay, let's have this conversation after the show.
Week.
Wrap this up, Aaron. We got to go.
Right. All right, you guys, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Zach's got to go mountain biking. If you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notifications button so you get